The calm before the storm. The toughest competition in MMA. The Ultimate Fighter, coached by Daniel Cormier and Michael Bisping, is back for its 34th season. The two UFC legends, guiding 20 up-and-coming prospects across women's strawweight and men's bantamweight through a grueling competition where only one from each division can be left standing by season's end. The show that changed the sport forever, brought it to the mainstream, and produced the champions of tomorrow, now enters the Paramount era. Welcome to Season 3 of TUF Enough, a special collaboration of the ETV Network alongside your hosts, Tom Albano and Zain Bando. It's time for the aftermath.
All right, it's time for a little loaded edition of TUF Enough here on the Empty the Bench Network. This is Tom Albano along with Zain Bando, and Zain, we're going to be playing a little catch-up today.
We sure are. So for those of you who missed last week, we greatly apologize. We had some last-minute scheduling conflicts come up. I was supposed to be solo, but nonetheless, we're here. We're here to recap what were the last two episodes of the current season, The Ultimate Fighter. So for those of you who have needed to catch up, you've come to the right place.
Absolutely. So make sure you hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you get notified of everything here at the Empty the Bench Podcast Network. YouTube.com/ET Network. Please subscribe. Those of you who are watching on the X platforms, hit like, hit repost, quote post, or it's us old school guys like to say retweet, quote tweet. And then come over to the YouTube home, subscribe, and help us grow here. Over 1,140 subscribers now, approaching 3,000 watch hours. You continue to help us grow, and we greatly appreciate it. Make sure to follow us across social media. Follow Zan's show at Bando's Breakdown. Follow my show at Fight IQ ETB. Follow Network at ETB Network, and then you can follow us on our personal social medias. You see them pop up right now. Under our tags at Thomas J. Albano and at Zain Bando 99. All right, let's get to last week's episode where you saw the long-awaited fight between Sean Mora and Ilimbek Uulu. And the fight ultimately ends up being a little lackluster and disappointing. More so not because of something that happened during the fight, but again, it seems we have more out of the cage stuff going on because of the fact that Sean Mora, who was scheduled to fight and did fight on last week's episode, and Mr. Urena, who's scheduled to fight on next week's episode that we're going to discuss next week, episode 8, no-showed training. And apparently, according to DC, it was multiple times that Mora no-showed.
Yeah, and it was clear that DC was very upset, but he continued practice anyway, and it was basically like one of those harsh lessons where he's going to have to learn the hard way, because if he doesn't, then nobody will teach him. And Tina Black, as much as people don't really like her, was trying to encourage Mora to get up and go to training, and he wouldn't do it, knowing that his fight was in a matter of days. And I think it showed in the actual fight itself, which we'll get to in just a couple minutes. But that was a clear warning sign, like, oh, something clearly is not right.
Yeah, pretty much. Where, you can't, 3 days before a fight, you need to be involved in your fight camp. 3 days before a fight, you need to be training. Now, Mora and Urena claimed that they were listening to their bodies and that their bodies told them that they needed to rest. 3 days before your fight is not rest time in my mind. 3 days before your fight is it's time to go. And Mora was trying to talk all about how like he's a professional, he knows what he's doing, But it's hard to argue that when your coach for the season of TUF, first of all, that you're on TUF, where TUF is a reality-based competition and, is unlike anything else that we see in MMA. It's a very unique kind of concept. And number two, the coaches that have been assigned to your season of TUF are former UFC champions and Hall of Famers.
It isn't just a unique competition, Tom. I'd go one step further and say it's the only mixed martial arts competition that is exactly like this. There's no other real copy-paste format to this that other promotions are doing, as far as I'm aware. So it makes it that much more of a, this is really your one shot, because if you can't go through this, you can't even go through the Contender Series, and you certainly can't even go through into the UFC, even if you tried.
Well, think about Xavier Franklin. He's on TUF. He's a Contender Series alum. His only loss in his MMA career is from Contender Series.
Yeah, which further validates my point that if you can't even get through Contender Series, this really is your last chance.
Which is a little bit unfortunate. But so you saw Mora and it seemed like Mora almost regretted everything, even as he got closer to the fight, when they were going over grappling the next day, and Sean Moore basically admitted in a confessional that I thought I knew everything, but obviously I have a lot more to learn.
Right, exactly. And sometimes that'll happen, but ultimately, I guess with taking the cat out of the bag, if you will, it ended up costing him in a major way, which is unfortunate.
Absolutely, because then you go to the fight itself, and Ilimbek had a pretty clear victory. Little disorganized here. I'm trying to pull up my notes from that fight. Okay, get rid of my notes for the fight. So you had Ilimbek, who, by the way, Bisping praised his wrestling and said he's one of the most ridiculous wrestlers, in a good way, that he's ever seen.
I mean, Tom, can you believe the way he took him down in practice?
Well, Dana White was, starstruck when he saw the height that he got on Mora as he was taking Mora down.
Yeah.
He's talking about how fluid Ilimbek's wrestling was, and said that there was some sort of fire. Obviously, there was a lot of hype around this fight.
Right, exactly.
What happened during the tryout episode. And by the way, when you talk about what Mora has been like on this show, again, it makes me think back to those two individuals who got cut, one of whom competed on the China card right before the TUF season started. I'm like, how did one of those two not make the show?
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's a very
good point.
Like, it reminds me again of, how one of the women's fighters on this season lost on a teep kick. Like, what goes into casting decisions?
Yeah, Karam. I don't think you'll be seeing her anytime soon.
No.
Yeah.
So round one was very clearly Ilimbek. 2 takedowns. The knee that when Mora got up and out of things the second time around, he got hit with a knee, and Dana was impressed by that as well. Mora got a takedown himself, but he didn't do much with it. DC was calling for a choke. But round 2 is where a lot of the controversy lies in, and that.
Oh, I think it was a highly controversial second round. I don't know how you feel, but I was watching that second round in absolute amazement.
So, well, first of all, it stood out to me right away. I didn't even need Dana's comment at the end, that for DC to talk about, Ilimbek's doing nothing, he's not producing any damage, it's just wrestling. That's priceless coming from Cormier, who a lot of his success in combat sports came from wrestling.
No, which is why Dana brought up the whole Rodriguez thing, which he was right about.
That's true. And Christian Strong ended up weeks ago winning a fight for his team from
No, right.
wrestling.
Exactly.
So that baffled me. Now, the controversy more comes in that in the last 30 seconds of the fight, Ilimbek fails on a takedown. Mora goes for what it looked like a front choke, but DC was yelling at him, punch, punch. And Mora started punching a lot, doing clear damage.
Right.
And the two of them got into a whole debate. I hate hearing fighters debate that stuff because there are some fighters, and well, even some commentators who don't seem to know the true unified rules of mixed martial arts. So to explain to the home audience and those who don't follow MMA so super, the unified rules of mixed martial arts, when you are scoring a round, the first criterion comes from effective striking and grappling. One's not favored over the other. They're kind of mixed in at this point. Who was more effective in their game plan, let's say. If it's a tie, then you go to aggression and then octagon control. And the feeling is that the three judges in this fight all scored both rounds for Ilimbek. Like Mora didn't even win one judge's scorecard on round 2, which is a little bit of a concern. Now, when you look at the unified rules, I guess what it comes down to was if you thought that Sean Mora and the damage he was throwing in the last 30 seconds of the fight was enough to steal that round away from Ilimbek, because prior to that, Ilimbek was still in clear control.
Right, exactly. Yep.
But if you go by the unified rules, I guess you could say, I guess the argument would be about the striking, the striking that Mora delivered at the end of the fight versus Ilimbek's, let's say, effective grappling, where at the end, towards the end of the fight, I mean, up until towards the end of the fight, you saw Ilimbek in complete control there.
Exactly. And that's one of those things, too, where in the second round, it was almost like Ilimbek cooled off a little bit, which we'll get to. It looked like at one point when they were in that scramble position and Mora reversed him and took his back, that things were going to get really interesting. And I thought it was enough of a position to where he was in a finishing sequence type of state, to where if he had just kind of rested himself on top of him a little bit more, you'd be looking at potentially a different outcome, which is why, and I don't mean to spoil it this quickly, which is why I was actually very surprised that a third round was not great, and given that Ilimbek was almost finished.
Yeah, you don't need to say spoiler at this point. We kind of have talked about it already. That, yeah, Ilimbek, if it was up to me, Zain, this fight would have gone to a third round. I thought Mora did enough in the last 30 seconds to.
I think everybody that was watching in person at the Apex, even on the taping, believed that it should have gone to a third round.
I think the only
although Team Bisping didn't think so, I don't think.
Right, I was going to say, Michael Bisping and Ilimbek were probably the only two who thought, no, this isn't going to go to a third round.
Yeah.
Having said that, just thinking about the show from the perspective of an audience member, like a casual, to use that term, and thinking about everything that transpired in the production of the show, I think it's hard to have sympathy for Sean Mora, given that he slept in and rested before in the days leading up to the fight. I think it's hard when you consider that Sean Mora punched Ilimbek during tryouts. Sean Mora has been painted as a villain, so I feel like Sean Mora kind of realized at the end, was it some sort of BS, arguably a robbery? Sure, but he wasn't going to get any sympathy on this show.
No, he was not. He certainly wasn't. And, as they say all the time, and it's more than true here, you got to not leave it in the hands of the judges sometimes.
Yeah. This is one that's unfortunately Mora is going to have to eat crow on.
No, he is. And funny enough, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think Sean Mora is now signed to the PFL. Is that right?
So let's talk about that, because it always seems to happen during TUF, where at least one episode gets spoiled. And Sean Mora was indeed signed by the PFL with a fight announced about PFL Charlotte prior to that episode.
Wow.
And want to take a guess what Twitter account posted about that?
Yeah, it's one that we can't stand. Let's just say that.
Once again,
He struck again for the third season in a row.
He just... I'm not going to go on about him.
By the way, I'm officially blocked. So,
you got blocked by him? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I did.
I've already. Actually, I think I was going to say, wait a minute. I think I blocked on my account, but I realized I don't think I have him blocked on the Fight IQ account. I got to block him on that.
Oh, that's great. That is great. Okay.
He is a stain on the face of MMA media.
I don't even think he is MMA media at this point.
Well, people consider him MMA media, sadly.
I don't think he is, though. But nonetheless, it got spoiled, which means even going into the episode, most people probably knew who was going to win this fight, which is really unfortunate. And yeah, now we have some more clarity on the bantamweight semifinals.
Yeah. I was going to say, I was going to bring up the question about PFL, like maybe purposely waiting until this time, but PFL wasn't the one who put the announcement out. It was
nope.
It was him.
It was him.
The bastard.
And those in the MMA community know who him is. So we don't need to go any further than that.
No. If something needed to be more out there about who I'm talking about, I'll just say the letter K, and I think people should know at this point who it is.
That's exactly right.
All right, let's talk about this week's episode pretty briefly. Last weekend, this week's episode, not much to... I mean, the Sean Mora and Urena no-showing training was the biggest outside the cage thing, alongside this, Mackenzie Stiller dealing with emotions. Everything else about the two episodes were more about the fights.
So what this is referring to, for those of you guys who may have forgotten, she was, I would say, emotionally struggling in sparring. She had said she had never been hit as hard as she had been hit in sparring before. She was really emotional about it. She was worried that she might have to pull out of the fight. And her opponent, I just think overall, the size advantage was extremely interesting going into this. And for sure, from the second you saw this face off at the end of the previous episode, my first thought was, oh, this is going to be a complete mismatch.
Yeah,
that's what I thought. And Stiller's tough, but again, it's kind of like what I said with Anna. You can have the personality, but if you can't show up when it matters most, it doesn't really do the show any good. If you can't be comparable in the cage, so to speak. So,
I mean, I gave Stiller a shot. I will agree with you on the size. That when I saw the size advantage that Delphine had, I'm like, okay,
yeah,
this
Delphine,
is interesting.
Yep.
But yeah, Mackenzie Stiller was more of a grappler, and Bisping kind of realized that. So what he decided to do was put her in sparring against somebody else who is a very big grappler and had to develop her own striking. The current strawweight champion of the world, Mackenzie Dern.
Right, and one Mackenzie who is significantly better than the other is kind of a recipe for disaster. I mean, you're sparring against a world champion, so I mean, yeah. So I don't know.
The thing is, they were just trying to put a whole package together. Now, Stiller talked about in the confessional how she was overwhelmed by training that day, but I say that because DC admits in a segment right after how Delphine is so athletically gifted, but her striking completely outweighs her grappling.
Yeah, yeah, and I think going into this fight, and as we transition to the fight, it kind of showed like as we saw, this was a very well-rounded performance from Delphine, to where I'm surprised. I'm sure you were too, even though I thought in this fight it was semi-justified with how competitive it was. I'm surprised that this fight went to a third round, just given the way it was built up to be, with the disadvantages, clear disadvantages on the Stiller side, and Delphine's athleticism on the other side. I was extremely surprised.
But I'm glad it kind of did because it deserved to. You had some exchanging to start off the fight before Stiller tried to use her grappling, tried to pin Delphine against the fence. Bisping basically was telling Stiller how she wasn't keeping things simple. Stiller was trying to...
And she was not. She was trying to do too much with too little.
Right. And talking, a lot of the talk was about setting up her takedown attempts.
Right, exactly.
Stiller tried to get Delphine to the fence, but she continued to work out of things. Delphine even got a front face lock on her during the last bit of round one. And Stiller wasn't setting things up. And again, she wasn't setting things up going into round two. And her striking, she was trying to do too much of. Bisping was telling her, keep it simple. Single shots, combinations, and use them for your takedowns. Keep going with heavy pressure. That's how you're going to win this fight, Bisping was saying. And Stiller did end up getting a takedown and getting to the back, even though Delphine ended up getting back up. And with 90 seconds left in the round, she scored another takedown. Now, we almost had another controversy in which during the end of round two, when those last sequences, one of Stiller's legs came up and hit Delphine on the head, which is a knee to the head of the grounded opponent. So should be, in almost all cases, a point taken away. But the ref never
taken
called
away
it.
and a restart of the fight.
Right. But the ref never called it. Team Cormier was pissed off. And Zain, even on an exhibition series like TUF, it amazes me how bad refereeing is in the sport in 2026.
And which referee was this again?
I'll double check. I forget who it was. It wasn't one of the big name refs.
Okay, I'm not saying it's justified, but still, I mean, if it was a bigger name ref, I think people would have heard about it.
Yes, but at the same time, Herb Dean is eating so much controversy this year.
I know.
Yeah, Tapology is not giving me anything. Well, I'm typing in Ultimate Fighter Season 34, and Tapology is not giving me anything just for the show.
Yeah, that would make sense from a Tapology standpoint.
So, yeah, we do not have a name of a referee at this point, and they don't even name the referees on the show. You just kind of recognize who they are. Like, I can tell when it's Mike Beltran, Herb Dean, Jason Herzog.
Yeah, my guess without looking at it again would have to be that it was probably one of those Brazilian referees. I would bet.
I don't remember off the top of my head who it was, but again, there's just no accountability for refs.
But it certainly wasn't the Big Four. Is your conclusion, right?
Right. But I guess my point is, that referee is very lucky that Delphine still got the win, because if Mackenzie got the win, won round 3, we would have been talking about a major controversy.
Oh yeah.
But Delphine, he did adjust in round 3. Once she started switching up her angles, she made it hard for Stiller to cut off the cage, and Stiller just didn't really have much an answer. She did well with striking, but it wasn't enough compared to Delphine, and Delphine even countered more of her grappling attempts.
Agreed.
So Stiller showed she wanted it, but not enough compared to Delphine.
Agreed.
So Delphine gets the win. The 4 semifinalists on the women's side are set. We have 1 semifinal spot left to determine. That's on the men's side. And we will determine that next week when finally Micaias, Urena, and finally Xavier Franklin are going to throw down. The number 1 overall pick of this season finally gets their chance in the spotlight.
Yeah. I think this is Franklin's fight to lose. What do you think?
The one thing that concerns me is the size. Urena is definitely bigger than him.
That's true.
And
but is Urena's head in the right place? We don't know. So
I know, like, it feels like they've painted him and Mora as kind of the outsiders, and kind of the guys who are being painted as villains after this week.
Correct.
Meanwhile, Xavier Franklin, again, it almost feels like Muhammad Ali, but not to the degree of as the kids would say, glazing of Muhammad Ali. But Xavier Franklin, he's on the spot. He's in the spotlight every episode. He's featured being funny or saying something in a confessional.
I'm just going to make a bold prediction now. I think it's going to be him versus Muhammad Ali to go to the finals. If they match it up the way I think they're going to.
Well, it's going to be very interesting to see what they do with the semifinals, because in the preview for next week's episode, Cormier says he wasn't completely satisfied with the matchups for the semifinals.
How could he not be satisfied if he's also the one in the room trying to make decisions alongside Bisping and Dana? I don't get it.
Don't look at me. I don't have next week's episode in front of me, number 1. And number 2, I have the same exact question at this point. And Bisping said to the fighters, you're in for some tough semifinals. Like, it sounds like according to Bisping, they actually selected the toughest matchups they could for everybody.
Well, that's good. That makes the semifinals worth seeing, I would think.
Right. Absolutely. So there's that to that, you know.
And given this trajectory, I'm just going to make another bold prediction now. I think we're going to see the finale during UFC 330. That's my guess.
No, because I think there's still 4. It's 12 episode season, so there's still 4 episodes.
Okay.
Semi-final fight. I think 331 is when they're going to do it, because they're going to end days before the Singapore card.
Oh, right. Okay.
So unless they're going to do it as part of the Noche 4 Garcia Ben doubleheader, I don't think they're going to do that. I think they're going to be the prelims for 331 in Hollywood.
That's valid. Either way, they'll be coming up sooner than you think. That's my point. So.
Absolutely. But then hold up. They threw one more wrench in for next week. What the hell is this?
This is Cormier trying to get back at Bisping because of what Bisping's team did early in the season.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
That's my guess.
I was just laughing that
this is their counter to the cake prank. Try saying that 3 times fast.
No, I'll just say because I'm all about that cake. I laughed at that because I immediately knew what that still was from, and I don't think everybody did. But yeah, so apparently Daniel Cormier is going to, and his team are going to interrupt a Team Bisping training session with a bunch of micro individuals who I recognize, by the way, based on, because you saw some of them wearing tights and the shirts that they were wearing. They are micro pro wrestlers.
Yes.
And I'm saying it the PC way.
No, I know.
Okay. I was saying that because I wasn't sure you were getting where I was going with it.
No, I do. I do.
So you're going to see micro pro wrestlers trying to grapple with Cormier's team of tough wrestlers.
It's going to be a very bizarre scene. Let's just say that.
I think that next week we're in for a ride.
Yeah, I think we're in for a ride for sure, which is a good precursor to the eventual coaches challenge, which I'm very excited about.
Yeah, it's going to happen at some point in August. One of the semifinal episodes. You just got to wait to see when it happens.
I know. But there you go, right?
Yeah, well, there you go. And there you go. You're all caught up on TUF now. Now we're back to normal.
Yeah, we're back to normal. That was the rapid fire edition of TUF. I'll close this out. Make sure to like, follow, and subscribe to the ETB Network. To do so, please go to youtube.com/ETB Network. Again, that is youtube.com/ETB NETWORK. Would be greatly appreciated. We've done pretty well with a bunch of our live streams of all of our different programming. We have about 17 different shows on this network now and content almost every single day. So you'll want to be subscribed. That way you don't miss a single episode of this. That way you don't miss a single episode of Fight IQ and or Fight IQ, The Puncher's Chance, Bando's Breakdowns, Zain Zinger Part 2, ETB Sports, and so much more. You know you want it. It takes 30 seconds to subscribe. It takes about another 5 or less to hit the notification bell. So please be sure to go and do that on the eve. We're about, I guess, 5 or 6 weeks away, maybe a little bit less, from the preseason officially starting for the NFL. So you want that content, so please be sure to go find it and subscribe. There you go.
Absolutely. And you can follow us across social media. You see our handles going across the screen right now at Fight IQ ETB, at Bando's Breakdown, at ETB Network. And then you see the name tags for Zain and I. Our handles underneath our little name tags at Thomas J. Albano, at ZanBando99. We'll see you next week for the final first round matchup of this TUF season as we get ready to go into semifinals time.
Yeah, we'll see you guys then. Have a good one. Have a good rest of your week. Enjoy the upcoming UFC event this weekend from Abu Dhabi, and we'll catch you guys next time. Have a good one, everyone. Cheers.
Take care, everybody.
Take care.